The coldest air of the season is set to arrive as we end this week and head into the upcoming weekend, creating some very cold conditions for Halloween night and also on Saturday morning. That has prompted the National Weather Service to issue freeze warnings, freeze watches, and winter storm watches for much of the southeast. Our own John Van Pelt reports from Raleigh, North Carolina.
Well, for much of this week in the south, it's been t-shirts and shorts weather. But as the big event approaches tomorrow night, Halloween, people are getting ready for three things in the south: monsters, the end of daylight savings time, and the first freeze of the season.
For millions of Southerners, it's been more like late spring, but that's about to change as cold air finally makes it down here and threatens to not only put a chill in the air, but to also put a killing frost in the ground. That means what are now beautiful blooms will soon be gone until next spring. Many of the leaves haven't even changed yet, and they too will have a frozen crust over them by this weekend. And for some people, it's too soon, even with November just days away, but they'll try to deal with it.
We can get real spoiled here in North Carolina with the mild temperatures, but being a flip-flop loving gal, it's going to be a tough transition this weekend, but I do enjoy the change of seasons.
For others, they get it's time for the winter to be here.
Well, I'm from Connecticut. My family is still from New York, Rhode Island, and Connecticut, where they've had their first heavy frost about 3 weeks ago. We've been enjoying t-shirt weather, but I guess we're ready for our first frost this weekend.
So whether you want the winter weather to come or not, it's going to be here before you know it, and we need to get ready. We need to switch out our wardrobes for the season, need to think about getting our houses and cars ready for the freezing weather. But there is a positive note. We get to spend one more hour in the warm, cozy bed on Sunday. So don't forget to set your clock back 1 hour. Fall back before you go to sleep on Saturday night. For WeatherNation, I'm John Van Pelt.
And before that cold air makes its way into the southeast, it's got to move its way through the Plains states, and so the National Weather Service has issued freeze watches and warnings for much of the Plains and parts of the Great Lakes area. And I would imagine here over the next 24 hours that continues to expand into Kentucky and Tennessee and for much of the southeast. We'll start you off in the Central Plains. We'll break down the freeze warning that's in effect for much of Kansas, parts of Oklahoma, and much of Missouri that starts Friday night and runs through Saturday morning. We're talking about temperatures bottoming out in the 20s. We're talking about a hard freeze that will kill vegetation, so make sure you bring in your plants as we head into the weekend. Surrounding areas, freeze watch also Friday night into Saturday morning. And again, sub-freezing temperatures are expected, so any tender vegetation you definitely need to bring in on Friday night. Here are your morning lows as we wake up Saturday morning across the Plains. We're talking 20s. So awfully cold weather on the way, but at least you'll rebound back into the 40s and 50s across the Plains on Saturday afternoon.